Dear expert, welcome. In this webinar, you will learn how to evaluate the strategy for intellectual property management in Horizon Europe proposals. An efficient and strategic knowledge management is key to valorizing research results. It is crucial for maximizing the impact of all Horizon Europe projects. A strategy for the management of intellectual property is therefore required. It must be understood in a broad sense, and it must cover the whole life cycle of a project and beyond, from the generation of IP to its valorization. Research results are mostly intangible, such as inventions or scientific discoveries, and consequently challenging to capture for use outside science. Description and protection through intellectual property rights can support dissemination as well as commercial and industry uptake. Making results freely available can also be the aim of IP management. Let's see now why a strategy for IP management is important. Well, the IP strategy shows strategic thinking beyond the end of the project and how the project plans to facilitate transfer, use and dissemination of its results. The IP strategy supports the management of the project. The IP strategy fosters exploitation by setting up a systematic approach to capture intangible assets and convert them into valued assets. It helps to prove ownership and prevent unauthorized use of project results by others. It positions the consortium partners as a unique provider of an innovative solution. It also helps to avoid disputes over IP with consortium partners and beyond. And finally, a strategic intellectual asset management contributes to the impact of Horizon Europe in maximizing the long-term leverage of the R&I investment. For these reasons, applicants are required to outline their strategy for the management of intellectual property, foreseen protection measures, and how these would be used to support exploitation. You will evaluate the IP strategy under the impact criterion. Once the proposal has been successfully evaluated, partners will need a consortium agreement that can regulate IP issues between them in more detail. Now, more concretely, how will you evaluate the IP management strategy under the impact criterion? Bear in mind that projects are different, for instance, basic research versus applied research, and naturally, the IP management is different in each case. To start with the basics, you must of course check whether the proposal has a robust and believable IP strategy. Does it include protection measures, if appropriate? Horizon Europe participants are required to provide for adequate protection of results that promise to be of valorization potential. The next question is whether the strategy is fit for purpose. Does it, for example, underpin the business strategy of participating industry partners? The IP strategy needs to be aligned with the envisaged pathways to outcomes and impacts set out in the work programme. Is it commensurate with the applicant's ambitions? For instance, if applicants expect notable benefits for European industry, it would be little credible if no measures to protect and/or transfer intellectual assets are foreseen. If the proposal is selected for funding, it will be mandatory to deliver a results ownership list at the end of the project. And finally, is the strategy clear in terms of ownership? Are there any specific measures planned to define and rule ownerships like IP workshops, tools, or joint ownership agreements? Let's look now in detail at issues that should be considered in the IP strategy. Keep in mind that none of them is mandatory, but also that this list is non-exhaustive, and applicants may come up with more or other activities. They will be positively evaluated if sufficiently addressed. A first issue is access to background. This means considering existing knowledge, know-how, IP that partners will bring to the project, and the potential intellectual property rights attached to them. Certain arrangements might be needed at this stage. Software development is part of many projects in different research areas. Applicants should identify early on in which context and under which IP regime software will be distributed, commercially or open source. This choice has a strong impact on the research. Also, early-stage, non-patentable research results have a better chance of being taken up in products and solutions if the IP strategy considers transfer and collaboration opportunities with partners in industry and society. The early involvement of knowledge transfer professionals and IP experts is a good practice in this respect. It should be considered positively in the scoring. Some further points for activities closer to the market. If relevant and no concrete information is included, the score should be lowered. Applicants should be sure of their freedom to operate. This means to avoid the risk of infringing an intellectual property title that belongs to a third party. The strategy must ensure that the protection and commercialization of a result is possible and considered before any publication or dissemination, especially in the case of joint ownership. Intellectual asset management usually incurs costs. For example, fees for filing a patent. Have appropriate efforts and costs been included in the project budget? In this context, it is important to bear in mind that IP protection is not exclusively for commercial and industrial purposes. It can also be used to ensure broad access to knowledge and innovation. Free licensing is one such option. Remember that the most suitable form of protecting IP depends on the character of the result, the foreseen use cases, and the IP strategy. IPR is not only patents. In some cases, patenting may indeed not be the best form of protection, as this entails disclosing the invention. The whole range of available instruments should be considered by applicants. A licensing strategy, including aspects like exclusive or non-exclusive licenses, geographical scope and sublicenses, or the sale of IP rights are also part of the toolbox. Choices should be explained in the strategy. Finally, you should be aware of some specific cases. As a novelty in Horizon Europe, all projects planning to exploit their results, mainly in non-associated third countries, must give a justification of how this is still in the Union's interest. In this case, applicants need to explain the implications for IP management. For example, how are IP issues addressed that result from different IP practices and different IP regulations in third country jurisdictions? Additional exploitation obligations may be required in the call conditions, and further requirements may be included in the call topic. For example, the mandatory use of open source software or free licensing. How applicants respond to these provisions should also be assessed in the evaluation. Remember, the key to all of the above is that the strategy for the management of intellectual property is comprehensive and fit for purpose, and that it promotes the transfer and valorization of research and innovation results for the benefit of society. If this is the case, you should positively evaluate the proposal under the impact criterion. We now come to the end of this video. Thank you for your attention and for your valuable evaluation work.